This conference will now be recorded.
Thanks once again, guys, for joining this session. So, good morning and good evening to all whoever joined from whichever location. So, today we are going to spend some time next 40-45 minutes or close to 1 hour in terms of we from Asia sharing the trends, whatever we see in the today's market from a performance testing and engineering, right? In general, whatever we see uh, from the various customers or various requirement what we get, or even from the way we used to get a requirement in terms of the learnings, right? In terms of the sessions that we conduct from Asia, the various requirement that we get from different people from different geo. So based on all these things, we have drafted this trends that we see today in the market. So I guess most of people who have joined this session, right? Most of you might have been already a performance tester or maybe a performance engineer at a various experience level, right? So today you might be doing the non-functional requirements, scripting, load and stress executions, analysis, reporting. You might be doing one or two of these, or you might be doing the end-to-end. Right? Again, depending upon your skill set, experience, and the need in the project, you might be doing almost all of these various activity that is part of the performance testing role, right? So now we all know that all these things are um, kind of a business as usual, where these are all expected in most of the project, right? Nothing new, but still that is a core part. Nothing is going to take away these things. You still need to do a requirements. You do have to do the scripting, execution, analysis. Though this looks basics, though this is something we have been doing it over the years and years, but that is still the core part of the performance testing. That is not going to go away anywhere. But more from the today's way of software delivery. Today, the way the technology has been advanced in last over the 3 years, 4 years, with DevOps coming into picture, with cloud overtaking the majority of the market share when it comes to your infra. Right? Certain things have changed. Certain things are changing, even with respect to the performance testing. The way we are going to do our testing is also going to change a little bit, right? And the roles, responsibility also is evolving as the technology also is getting advanced, and there are multiple roles as well coming up. And in the current DevOps kind of setup, where you're not going to have larger teams, which means again there is a requirement demand for multi-skilled people, so that a single person can do multiple activities. So with that different perspective we have put across, um, what is next, right? The crux is going to be the performance testing and engineering. That is not going to change. The core is still important. Still we need to probably upskill of ourselves, or gain more experience in testing and engineering. But along with that, it is also important to understand or aware of what is happening in the market. What is it something the customers are expecting? What are the organizations are expecting? And we can accordingly we can see if at all I wanted to upskill myself to the next level, or to the something next big thing. What are the things which we can focus on? What is the trend we are seeing? What is that need? And now what is something I'm going to pick it from the list of various demands or need, right? As per my aspiration, as per my skill set, as my interest level, whatever way I wanted to upskill myself, I can definitely do it. So this is more of an awareness for everyone who has joined this call, um, uh, to introduce you to the various aspect of what next. Okay. So we are basically classified into 5 things. So the top 2 things are more from a technology perspective, your cloud and the DevOps. Okay, and then the slightly, I would say, expanding to what we do today in the name of performance testing and in the name of engineering, we might be already doing certain things which is required for an SRE, site reliability engineering. Okay, that is third thing. And the next 2 things are is kind of totally different from what we are doing now. It is more about horizontally scaling yourself, right? Or it is more of a multi-skill. So both are the SDET and also your full stack QA, full stack testing, where apart from performance testing, if you are passionate in the other testing aspect like security testing, usability testing, functional automation, it is good to take that route as well, because in the organization with the small teams, small pod teams, you are expected to do automation as well as performance, and vice versa as well. The automation team also expected to do some level of performance testing. That is the full stack. And the SDET is slightly on other side, where if you're passionate about development, passionate about reviewing the code, providing the code level recommendations or changes, you can also become an SDET, where you're going to scale yourself more from a development perspective. So the bottom 2 are, one, you're going to expand, you're going to come out of your comfort zone, and you're going to expand yourself in a functional or a different testing angle. Or second is more from a development perspective. You can expand your knowledge in a development, be it a programming language or design or tuning, or it's going to be completely development oriented aspects. Okay, so all these 5 are going to sit on top of your core part, right? So that is not going to change. We call something as uh, T-shaped skill set. Okay, so the T-shaped skill set is nothing but you will have the your performance testing or engineering. That is going to be your crux, right? It's going to be, you will have a depth of knowledge in it. Whereas your horizontal things are going to be all these things, right? It could be an automation testing, or it could be um, security testing, or it could be a usability testing, whatever it is, right? So that is going to be a horizontal, or it could be development oriented learning, right? Your programming skills, whatever it is. So it is going to be a T-shaped skill set, where you're going to still learn a lot of core topics from performance testing and engineering, and you're going to your main job is still going to deliver your performance testing or engineering. Along with that, you can expand yourself in the other area from a broader perspective. So the depth, the T shape, the depth is going to be the vertical line, which is going to be a depth, is going to be your performance testing or your performance engineering. Whereas the horizontal line is going to be a broader knowledge. It could be all these aspects, automation testing or functional testing, or your security testing, or it could be development oriented skill sets. All these things are going to part of the your horizontal bar in the T shape. Okay, so first we'll take a look into the cloud. Okay, and then we'll go one by one. Okay, so from a cloud perspective, um, we all know that the last 3-5 years we have been hearing about your AWS. We are hearing about your Azure or GCP, Google Cloud Platform, right? So over the years, absolutely, the team has most of the organization has moved towards the your cloud-based hosting, mainly because of the operational efficiency uh, that that comes up with the cloud, right? Instead of you maintaining data center with 30, 40, 50 servers and maintaining the OS patches, infra, you need to have people to manage it. So lots of cost associated with it, right? And if in case you wanted to scale your service for your unusual demands, you need to go and procure it. There is going to be a procurement timeline, and if it is going to be out of warranty, you need to replace it. And then if you're going to not use it for longer time, say for example, very specifically for the your holiday period and all, right? During Christmas, New Year, Thanksgiving, you might need more service. But whereas throughout the year, you might not need it, or you might have monthly sale for the e-commerce websites, which means you need infra only during the month end, right? So all these things in the cloud, when you go to cloud, with cloud having the ability of on-demand provisioning, right? It is like you renting out a car or renting out a bike, right? As and when you required. So it's similarly, you go and rent your infra missions from the cloud, and the cloud is going to provide you that flexibility. With that, it comes your operational efficiency as well. So that is the main reason the organization prefer going to the cloud, right? So which means now our applications are going to be hosted in the cloud, and though our testing, the scripting, non-functional requirements are going to be pretty same, there are going to be few things which you need to learn from a cloud perspective, right? Obviously, in your current organization, if they use AWS or Azure, obviously you may need to go and learn the tools that are available within AWS, the way it is getting hosted, the way the load balancing is going to happen, all these auto scaling features, right? Especially there are going to be the people talk about when it goes to cloud. Normal tendency from a project management is, okay, I go to cloud. Cloud is going to provide me the infra on demand. I don't need to worry about the performance because cloud is going to take care of it. Okay. Then why do I need a performance testing or engineering? Okay, so maybe a non-technical person from a project management, they might have this valid question, right? But what we have seen so far is the cost that a enterprise will spend on the cloud could be more very higher or very more than what they might have spent in the data center itself, because if the performance has not been taken care. Okay, so remember, only the cloud is going to provide you the infrastructure, right? But you are going to have a same application. If you're going to migrate an application from the data center to the cloud, okay, your application is still same. The code is still same. The database schemas are going to be same. The architecture is going to be still same. Say in terms of cloud migration, right? You move your application from your data center to your cloud, and all of a sudden, cloud is not going to do a magic in terms of performance or scalability. Yes, it is going to provide you missions on demand. If there's a CPU problem, if there is a memory problem, uh, when it is going to reach a certain limit, 90%, 18%, yeah, cloud is going to provide you additional service so that your end users are not going to impact it, but at the cost itself, right? You need to pay more and more money to AWS, and that is a secret behind their success as well. So which means most of the cloud native applications or cloud migration applications, your application testing engineering is going to be more crucial. In fact, you might need to include much more scenarios as well when it comes to cloud, like your auto scaling and all these things. So now, at the current state, if you are doing the performance testing, all these typical activities, what I was calling out earlier, the scope for you to learn a cloud technology is very valid and very relevant. But you cannot master something. You can still go and do some certifications that is available in each of the cloud platform. But you're not going to be Azure architect or AWS architect, right? Because we are going to move between projects. Today, it might be that a team might be using AWS. After 6 months, the project which we are going to work, they might be working on a GCP. So it is good to learn something very generic to cloud, which means uh, how the performance is going to vary, how performance testing is going to vary when you move to cloud. Those concepts, those approach, you may need to learn more from a generic uh, perspective. But if you know that in your enterprise they are already moved to AWS or they are moving to AWS, then it is good to go and look into all the different services that is available in AWS. It could be a Dockerized environment or Fargate, or it could be Lambda services, or it could be your Beanstalk deployments. All these various storage options available within the cloud. If it is going to be Azure, there are a lot of options for in terms of monitoring. Azure has a very good APM in itself, right? Your application insights, application, your Azure monitor. So you can pick depending upon your current enterprise cloud provider. You can pick that particular cloud, and then you can probably start learning the various tools, various services that is available within the AWS or Azure or GCP. Okay. Or if current organization doesn't even have any of these a cloud migrated application, then you can probably with the current market share, Amazon stands on the top, followed by Azure, right? So you can probably still go and get some basic certification in AWS, or go and look into all various aspect of whatever I said about the Fargates or auto scaling, Beanstalks, Lambda services, how it works. You cannot go, no need to go in depth, but at least you should be confident enough to tell, okay, the cloud is there, and application is going to move to cloud. What is my approach is going to, how my approach is going to change. What are the various services that are there in cloud which might be useful to me. That awareness is very important, because we don't need to go to the extreme and learn all the things that are available and become an expert, because it may not be even valid, right? Because these are all fast changing environment. It can easily become void. You never know, in your next project you will be completely put in Azure. So knowledge is always going to be there. Nothing is going to take away from that. But my recommendation would be not to go in depth and then learn everything. But if you're going to start, just start at the eye level. If you're very sure that it is going to be AWS or Azure, then you can go one step further and then try to get some certification. Okay. So cloud, if you want to bet something, if you're not doing anything apart from performance testing or performance engineering today, out of all these things, definitely you can bet on the cloud, because probability of you working in a cloud based project is going to be very, very, very high. Versus, I would say, when I compare with DevOps, right? DevOps is, is there for last 5-8 years very easily. And most of the DevOps, when you say DevOps is more about continuous deployments, continuous development, and then continuous testing. But in testing, it's mostly about your functional automation or smoke test or a build validation, right? But performance testing in DevOps is still not achieved in a lot of places for various reasons. Um, uh, but the learning from a learning perspective, definitely, I think again this is one area where you don't need to go into depth of DevOps, learn a lot of things, but I would say 3 or 4 things, right? At least you should be able to go and integrate your JMeter or load runner or Neoload or AppDynamics with Jenkins kind of a tool. Okay, I'm assuming that you haven't done anything on DevOps, right? If you're already doing something on DevOps, I think it is good already. You can expand your knowledge. You already started, you know how to expand. But if you're still doing only a pure performance testing alone, then DevOps is something you can spend time for sure. It is going to have a lot of value when you're going to talk about this in the interviews, in the projects, because everywhere there will be continuous testing or continuous deployment. Performance testing might be there or might not be there, but you never know when it will be required, right? It is still not very mandated everywhere, but it depends upon the people who work, right? If they are if they wanted to include performance testing into pipeline, and the team is also entire DevOps team is also aligned with that goal, you will do it. But most of the time we have script failures, test data problems, environmental problems, lot of challenges, lot of myth. That is why it is still not been part of the DevOps pipeline. But from a learning perspective, I would say definitely start with some Jenkins, JMeter, load runner integration. Try to understand what are all plugins that are available. All these things are all pretty much non-technical things, right? Because it's all out of box available with Jenkins from an integration perspective. So learn at least to try to install some Jenkins and do execution from Jenkins for your JMeter. Try to pull metrics from AppDynamics plugins into Jenkins, right? All these things are basic things which you can easily do it. And in the project, they might not be having Jenkins, they might be having Bamboo or TeamCity. Every tool will have their plugins for sure. So and then it is good to learn a couple of scripting languages like PowerShell or shell scripts, because when it comes to DevOps, right, you might need to write small these automation scripts for archiving your previous results, to pull data from scripts from GitHub and then make a copy of it. So all these copy commands, your Windows-based automations, Linux-based automation, you might need few of these PowerShells and your shell scripts. So that will be little handy for sure when it comes to DevOps automation. Most of the time, we can also place our request to the DevOps team, DevOps automation team. They will also do all these things. Their actual job is to do these things, right? But you have to give requirements. So for you to give the requirement, you should know of what is that required in the DevOps world, right? So that at least you can provide your requirements for the DevOps team, and they can do whatever it is for you. Be it is the Windows PowerShell scripts or shell scripts or Groovy script, whatever it is. Okay. Uh, that is from a DevOps perspective. To start with, you're not going to spend hours into that, but one second, please. Sorry, guys. Okay, so what I was saying is, from a DevOps perspective, you're not going to have spend hours and hours in learning it, but a few things which you can spend time, that is going to really make a lot of difference whenever you are asked to do something in your project, or whenever you want to question. You will obviously will get questions around this whenever you're going to attend interviews, right? Whether you've done some project in DevOps, have you run some executions in the pipeline. So for that, you can definitely pick up this, probably spend, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks at least. Get a basic stuff of connecting, integrating load runner or JMeter with Jenkins, executing the test results, executing the test and getting the results, connecting with the Dynatrace or AppDynamics to pull the server-side metrics. So all these things are going to be helpful, definitely, and it's not going to take a lot of time, as I said. So that is DevOps stuff. From a performance testing perspective, the learning scope is less, but you will learn a lot of things when you really start working on a project. When you start doing the integration, you will end up with a lot of problems. You will have to find solution for test data automation. You need to find solution for the service virtualizations, environmental health check, automating your load generator infrastructure. A lot of things are going to be there as a challenge, right? So those things you will have to learn on the fly during your project, because there's nothing to go and look into a course or a book to learn this. These challenges are going to be specific to your application, specific to your script. You need to automate your test data. You need to automate your provisioning of your infrastructure for performance environment. You might need to virtualize some of the downstream services. All these things are part of the process, and you need to find answer for that. From a learning perspective, prior to the project, All you need to do is make sure that you know how to install Jenkins, install plugins, communicate with your load runner, JMeter, run a test, make just break a barrier of you don't know what is that we do in DevOps, right? That basic thing, if you do it, you can easily catch up and expand from there. So this cloud and DevOps, yeah, definitely it is going to be very, very useful from a learning perspective. At least one by one, right? At least one every 6 months you can pick it up. If at all you find a opportunity in a project, you automatically going to do it. If you don't find an opportunity, you can pick one of these things every quarter or every 6 months, and you can get into the at least into the basics. The third is going to be the site reliability engineering. As I said earlier, it is a little expansion of, I would not even say expansion. We might be already doing all these things, like your disaster recovery testing, failover testing, failure testing, right? You turn off one of the servers, see whether the load balancing happens properly. Right, that is going to be a failover testing kind of a thing which you do it. Most of the time, the disaster recovery, all these things are taken care by your server admins or by your operational team, right? Site reliability teams. But now, with this SRE role, it is now getting converged. Lot of performance engineering, lot of these production readiness, right? That is getting coming under the site reliability engineering. Again, there is no such defined role. In few places, we see that performance engineer do all these reliability aspect, right? In certain places, only the SRE team they do it, right? But when it comes to a specific, whatever name they're going to call it, right? SRE, or they can ask the performance engineer to do it. But typically, what comes under site reliability engineering is, apart from our regular executions, it is going to be mainly focusing on your failure testing, failover testing, and your synthetic monitoring, real user monitoring in production, synthetic testing, and something called resiliency testing, right? Resiliency is again a very famous word. You might keep hearing now and then. So these chaos testing, right? So all these things comes under your site reliability. It is more about reliability, how reliable your application is. Whatever happens to my application, right? Whatever happen to my downstream servers, my hardware, how reliable my application is, whether my application is resilient to all these adverse condition. Okay, so all these things comes under the site reliability engineering, which means the learning for you, it is more, you might still need to run the same set of executions, same set of scripts for extended hours, and then to test out your resiliency, you might go and create these chaos, right? They call it as a chaos, because uh, when chaos happens, how application is going to handle it, right? When a CPU or memory shoots up from all of a sudden from 20 to 100%, what happens to your application? When one of the server goes down, what happens to the application? One of the downstream services latency becomes very high, how application is going to handle that? When there is a server crash, what happens? Okay, all these different chaos, you might need to create it. There are tools available for these kind of a chaos, right? There are Gremlin, famous chaos monkey from Netflix, and in AWS itself they have a AWS chaos framework. So if you wanted to really interested, passionate towards these kind of failure testing, failover testing, right? This is one very challenging, very highly technical area, because you are going to break your servers, you are going to um, create problems, and then see how your application is going to handle it. All these chaos monkeys and Gremlin, all these tools will have lot of small Linux scripts, shell scripts, PowerShell scripts, which will go and mimic these conditions, right? It will go and increase the CPU, it will go and increase the memory, it will go and create those latency problems. and then you need to monitor your application, you need to monitor your cloud auto scaling features, whether it is doing auto scaling properly during that chaos, whether the what is the error rate, what is your response time impact. All these things are going to be part of your site reliability engineering. Okay, so this is something, as I said, it's an expansion of performance testing, or we might be already doing under the name of performance testing or engineering. Okay, but this again, this is one of the SRE is a role that is something been easily asked in most of the projects nowadays. Okay, so other two are totally out of our comfort zone. It is more towards your SDET and full stack QA, right? In the current agile projects, in the pod kind of a structure, right? So for every module, every services, they might form a small team. So in a small team, they don't have a luxury of having performance testers, or 2 or 3 performance testers, automation testers. So the ask from the project team is, how can a automation testing team or a person can do performance testing, or vice versa, or you can still have one performance tester or one automation tester. In a particular release, there might be a lot of requirement for automation testing or functional testing. In one of the release, there might be a lot of requirement for performance testing. So in those cases, each one has to be able to complement each other. Pretty much a automation tester with this core SME knowledge, he can still drive all the important things, but performance tester should be able to go and help him out by creating multiple scripts, or reviewing the scripts, or fixing the scripts. And the same way, other way around, automation, you are still an SME, but you can get some work done by the automation tester during the peak time, right? So that is how the full stack QA is going to be there. You're never going to be going to get an SME in your security testing or automation testing. That's not going to happen overnight, but at least you should be able to help manage the other aspect by learning Selenium automation, right? By learning a couple of automation frameworks, you can at least go and help the automation tester whenever he is having a high workload. Other way around, they're already picking at automation testers, are able to pick it up performance testing from a scripting perspective, from execution perspective. They will not get involved in a deep dive analysis or the engineering aspect, right? They'll be able to go and create a few scripts for you, run few scripts and find out the script problems. They can go and just monitor the test from a testing perspective, right? That those things they can do it. That is all about the full stack QA. Again, interesting area. You want to get upskilled, sorry, cross skilled in a different testing, which is going to be more and more relevant going forward. The other is that that is something only if at all you are very passionate in the development, or if you already know something good programming languages, then you can complement the developer similar to you're going to complement your automation tester in the full stack QA. So you can involve with the developer, you can take the code. You're not going to go and create applications or create the entire module, but definitely you can go and do the unit testing, create unit testing scripts, review the scripts, and if at all there is a small change request, you can also probably do the changes and then give to the developer, right? So that is also something we see that kind of a role available in a lot of places, uh, but the probability of that we going to that space is, though it is less, but there is no boundary for it, right? If you are really good in programming languages or passionate about it, that is also one of the area where you can upskill yourself. Okay, so out of these 5 things, I would say the SDET could be an optional one. Site reliability, maybe you can probably pause it for now, but other 3 areas is something, it is not going to be too complicated, but if you put some kind of effort towards it, you can at least pass that level 1, right? Level 1 is, it's any new area, to get that level 1 is very, very important, because from there, depending upon the project needs, depending upon the expectation, you can go to the further levels. So at least the level 1, the basics of what is that required in the cloud or DevOps or in the full stack QA, if you can uh, have that as a goal and then achieve it probably once in a quarter, I think that would be more good. But all these things are going to be on top of your core. Your core is always going to be performance testing or engineering, right? There is nothing, no question about it. You need to still keep evolving in that space. Or other things are going to be more of a good to have, right? The knowing the cloud, knowing the DevOps, full stack QA, it's very good to know. Yes, it market is moving towards that. You need to get to that at some point of time. But if you already um, um, not very good in performance testing itself, say for example you're just doing a scripting, then your immediate goal is should be go to the execution or analysis. If you're doing all this testing but you're not doing any engineering, then your next goal should be towards the performance engineering, right? Profiling or your heap dump analysis, garbage collection analysis, or thread dumps. All these things are going to be very, very important from a performance perspective itself, right? So depending upon where you are currently, if you just doing a scripting in performance testing, the next goal should be for you to go and learn the execution methodologies, and go and spend time on analyzing your test results, and then working on the reporting part. If you're already doing all this end to end, then next is going to be a performance engineering. If you're not doing any engineering activity, then I think it is very important for you to go and learn these engineering concepts, all these profilings, dump analysis, garbage collection analysis, Oracle or your monitoring, AWR analysis. All these things are going to be very, very important, at least to a level 1. Again, all I'm saying is you're not going to go to level 3, level 4 immediately. That will happen only if you're going to really work on the projects. But get that level 1 ticked so that you can confidently go and say, I know all these things. Depending on a project need, you can easily expand yourself. So make sure you are good in testing. That's a core. Make sure you're good in engineering. That is going to be the next thing, very important. And then you can expand yourself to the cloud, DevOps, full stack QA, depending upon your time, depending upon your bandwidth, depending upon your project need. Okay. So I'll just pass on for now. If there are any, I think there is already a question in the chat. I'll try to go and read that. If you have any other questions, guys, please post it in the chat. I'll be happy to answer. Okay, I saw a chat came in where somebody typed, yeah, I think it is there. Generally, the production site access are not provided to the PT. In cloud, the project team will have the server team or DevOps team to run the resilience testing. How it different from DevOps team resilience testing? See, as I said, the resilience testing, there is no specific defined rule for it. Earlier, there used to be a server team who can do it. There will be a cloud administrator who can do it. SREs can do it. In certain places, performance engineering team will also drive it. But whoever does the testing, right, people can create the chaos, all these things. But you as a performance tester or engineer, you should be able to, you are the one who are going to run the background load, right? You will be running your endurance test, correct? And then during that endurance test, they will be creating this chaos, right? Bringing down all these servers or making that background noise, bringing the latency. You will be again observing your server side performance, your end user performance, and then reporting the behavior. So along with that, you can also go and check whether the auto scaling is happening properly or not if it is a cloud. So it's going to be a combined effort, right? The resiliency can be owned by maybe a different team. It could be a DevOps team or your development team, or it could be a SRE. But you have to be part of that whole exercise, a resiliency exercise. Or in some cases, in some projects, we also see the customers are expecting a performance engineer to do the resiliency testing itself. And in that case, you have to get access to the environments, you have to get access to the servers, you have to get access to the tools. That is going to be your prerequisite, right? I mean, if you don't get access, nobody will be able to do it. So you getting the access all depends upon whether the project team needs you to do it or it's a different team. If they want you to do it, then obviously you will get the access. If you don't have, if they somebody else is going to do it, then you will still acting as a performance tester and creating those scripts and running those tests for 8 hours, 12 hours, and you will be monitoring your load and results or JMeter results, because that is an impact you're going to measure, right? Some chaos is going to get created in the backend. What is the impact to the end user? So you will still monitor the test from a tester perspective. Okay. If you have guys any questions, yeah, please share something in the chat, or if you also have something to share, if with your personal experience on the similar lines, or any of these activities, any of these areas, feel free to share, which is always going to be good for the entire audience who have joined. Yeah. And for most of these learnings, right, Isha has a very good courses. uh, so if at all you're interested, you can also reach out to Kumar sir, be it as a performance testing or a performance engineering, or DevOps or cloud, for your full stack QA, the Selenium. For all these things, uh, there are good tailored course for the from Isha, which if you need further details, you can definitely reach out to Kumar sir. Okay, fine guys, if there are no further questions, thanks for joining. Thanks for all your time, though it is a weekend. We really appreciate you taking out time to attend this webinar. Okay, and if you have any questions on any of these topics, or if you are interested in any of these sessions, right, please reach out to the same WhatsApp group, or you can reach out to the Kumar sir. We will be happy to provide you the more other information around these courses. Okay, and especially there are a few courses coming up in the coming week. Selenium is coming up, in performance engineering is coming up, exhaustive engineering course is also coming up this week. So if you have any questions around that also, please drop a note or reach out to us. Okay, there is one more question. I am working as a performance tester for SAP client, which is migrating to S4. Where can I bring a value add for testing, finding issues, or any new process for any clients in PT? So you're saying I don't know what is S4, because I'm not much experienced in SAP. So this question probably, Tarangini, if you can just, I have this chat anyway. If you can just put it in the WhatsApp group, right? I'll also try to gather more information, because I don't have much information about SAP, but I assume that they are migrating to a cloud. Okay. So as a tester, how can you bring a value add? One thing what we have seen from SAP at eye level at least, right? The end user experience. So today you might have these servers in the data center, which might be closer to your end users. But when you're going to move this to the cloud, and if it's not going to be a private cloud, you will not guarantee that where you're going to get that server hosted, right? It could be within North America somewhere, or within Europe somewhere. And if you don't have proper CDNs, or your static pays are not cached properly, you might have an impact on the end user experience. So as a tester, it's very important for you to understand where it is getting deployed, private or public cloud, whether the CDNs are going to be deployed properly, and you need to, depending upon your end users rate, you need to probably test it from UK or US. From that location, you need to measure what is your end user experience. We do load testing, but it is going to be from a load generators, right? But when it goes to cloud, we most often see problem with the end user experience, latency. So that is something you can pick it up, and that is going to be a really value add to make sure your end user experience is not impacted. From a process perspective, your approach is going to be same from a testing perspective, but you may need to bring in all these auto scaling validation as part of the cloud migration. So PT, Akash Sharma, the PT is not going to be different at all. It is going to be still same as I said earlier. Only the tools might change. You might use cloud native tools like Azure Monitor. So uh, it is not going to change. In fact, you might need to include more and more scenarios, additional scenarios like auto scaling scenarios from your traditional way of doing it. But PT as such, it is not going to change a lot. But you should know what is there in these cloud for you to use it properly, right? So that is why we say that we should go and learn some good topics, good concepts in the AWS or Azure. But from a testing perspective, from a execution analysis, engineering, it's 80% going to be remain same. But that remaining 20%, which is going to change, that's going to be very very crucial for the application to be working fine in the production. See, again the same question. Test strategy on the cloud testing, it's going to be same. Okay, you might need to include the CDN validations, end user experience, resiliency is going to be there. All this chaos testing is going to be there, and then you need to make sure that depending upon the private cloud or public cloud, you may need to add few additional scenarios. And in the cloud, if it is going to be SaaS product, right, where the cloud provider will take care of everything. You will not even be going and do any performance testing for a SaaS product, because the application itself provided by the your cloud provider, they are going to host it, and what they will provide is only the SLA. They will say that your response time SLAs are going to be 3 seconds or 5 seconds, and you will have 100% availability. That is a guarantee they are going to give it. Okay, they will never say they will use 5 servers or 10 servers. They will just guarantee with the SLA for a SaaS product. But as a in a SaaS product, in a cloud, it's a SaaS product. All we do is probably will not be able to go and do a load testing at all, because they will never give a environment for us to do a load testing, because it's their own product. They're going to host it there, right? All we might do is probably in the production we might do some end user validation just to cross verify if that is the application behavior is good or bad, whether they are meeting SLAs or not. So some kind of a synthetic testing, synthetic monitoring, end user experience, we will do it in production directly, but not a proper load testing for the SaaS based product. So that strategy might be a little different. Otherwise, pretty much it's going to be same. I think the same question like Zach, Akash, it's going to be pretty much same. Okay, guys. Any other questions? Feel free to put it in the chat. Okay, guys. Fine. Thank you all again. If you have any questions further, please you can drop a note in the WhatsApp group. Or if you have any questions on the upcoming courses, you can also drop a note in the same WhatsApp group, or you can also reach out to Kumar sir. Thank you again. Thanks for your time. Bye, guys. Take care.